Hey guys, Kev here, and I want to do a quick review on the Microtech Socom Bravo. So I say it's going to be quick because it's going to be one knife, and I just want to do this overview, I guess. It's kind of a review slash overview because I have carried this, I have used it a little bit, but I've only had it a few days. The unboxing was only a few videos ago. But I need to send this off to my buddy Josh in Australia, who I proxy for. That's whose knife this is, and obviously I want to get it to him. But I want to do a review on it. The unboxing, covered a lot of first impressions and all that stuff were in there as well. But there have been some things I've noticed since then. Obviously, I carried it, so that's a consideration. I've used the blade a little bit. That's a consideration. And the action has broken in, and I've had a chance to kind of get a better feel for that than I did in the unboxing. So, with all that said, I wanted to do this, dedicated review video for it. There's some oil coming out of there. Let me clean that up. So, first off, if you haven't seen the unboxing, this knife is branded Microtech. You can see right there, there's your serial number. There is your date of birth, basically, or whatever. Socom Bravo, Tanto Edge, Microtech. Your steel right there is M390. There is this carbon fiber onlay, inlay type deal. Titanium scales, titanium anodized pivot collar, titanium 3D milled clip, titanium back spacer that has pretty cool milling and everything to match the Socom look. This is basically an OEM'd version of the Socom Elite. This is made in China by Reich Knives. That's R-I-K-E, Reich Knives. You probably have seen some of their really insane designs. They do like crazy Isham Blade Works looking knives all the time. Like that's their thing. But their quality is top notch. They're one of the better OEMs out there. You just don't see a lot of stuff that is more streamlined from them. So they're not as popular as you'd think. This definitely makes me want to check them out. Maybe talk to them about doing an OEM project. But anyway, I digress. That's kind of the background on this knife. This was $369. That's with tax, shipping, all that stuff included. I know that because I paid for it. They would not ship to Australia, and they would not even let him use his credit card because the billing address has to match the shipping address. So I ended up having to put it on my credit card, and then he just sent me the money. So that's how that went down. So that's kind of a breakdown on the knife right there. It does have a sort of bead blasted blade. I don't know if you want to call that a heavy stonewash. I'd call it a bead blast. Kind of has this crazy fuller going on. You can't get to the fuller, to flick or anything. You just have these thumb studs. So let's kind of break this knife down. Aesthetics. It looks like a Socom Elite, which is not my favorite design. You guys know that, but they did a little bit of a better job here with this one, I think. I don't know if it has to do with texturing or something like that, but the one thing that bugged me about the Socom was the taper. The taper from the handle down just was real. It just felt like it got really thin back here. Like if this is supposed to be a fighting knife, it feels weird that it could be easily yanked out of my hand because it tapers down. I would think if you wanted it to stay in your hand, you would have thinner to thicker, and then it would be really hard to pull out of your hand. That's just my theory. I'm not a fighting knife guy. I don't know martial arts or anything. So, obviously, you gotta take that into consideration. But the titanium, the carbon fiber, it all looks good. The blade looks good. I do kind of like the knife design. The Tanto is really cool. I prefer it over the drop point version. And then you have the backspacer, which is really cool. I like how they kind of milled all this in and have these cutouts here. It's pretty cool. The blade it's a pretty thick stock, but they did a good job with this swedge up here. You can see that fuller, and then it comes down to this grind. So your grind starts right here. So you're not going to get the thinnest edge, and I don't think that's what they're going for. It's supposed to be tactical, aka tactical. So it's pretty thick behind the edge, but I will say it's razor sharp. But anyway, aesthetically, it's not my thing. It's very tactical, but I like how they put the carbon fiber and the anodization. Those touches really help. Compared to the Socom Elite, I think this is worlds better looking. Ergonomics are pretty good. It's a big knife. I mean, we're talking about a 4-inch blade here, maybe slightly more. So you got a huge knife, right? I mean, it's probably around 9 inches. That's what she said. Hang on. Let me do the handle first. So we'll do the handle, 5 inches, and then the blade is right at 4 inches. Yeah. So you're talking about a 9-inch overall knife. Just a big one, right? Like here is, what's something everybody knows? Oh, God. Here's the Axon from Vero. That's my 3.5-inch blade measuring stick. It's considerably larger than that. I have a Hinder 3-inch Warney in right now on loan. You can see it absolutely dwarfs that knife. Let's see, what else do I have? I don't know, I have an RSK. This is one maybe a lot of people have. It's a pretty large size. I'd call this a full-size knife, right? It's probably going to be 3.5 as well, you can see. So it's just dwarfing everything. The only thing I have probably in the collection that's going to even get close is the Shadow Ranger. Another tactical knife. So there you go. It's actually a little bit bigger than the Shadow Ranger. The Microtech Shadow Ranger. The greatest EDC knife of all time. You can see there it's actually a little bit bigger than that. Even though the Shadow Ranger is definitely a better knife. So it's a big boy, right? So ergonomically, you got a lot hanging out, right? But it's pretty neutral. Again, it does have that taper down, so it's a little weird. But if you hold it like this with your thumb, like right up here on this jimping kind of ramp thing, which I think is what it's there for, yeah, it feels really good. I'm really locked in. It's just kind of comfortable. I just would never hold a knife like this. You know, I don't want the edge that far away from my hand. I want to be right up on it, you know, doing, you know, that kind of work. I'm usually doing pinch grip. So, like, this knife just isn't for my style, right? But for what it is, it's comfortable in this grip. So, if that makes sense to anybody. And you can always do this if you want, and that's pretty comfortable as well. There's no crazy hot spots or anything weird. That clip is very flat. So, pretty good on the ergos, honestly. The carry is absolutely atrocious. So, this clip is, it's just bad. Like, it doesn't even feel all that tight, but it is, man. Getting that thing in your pocket and out is just terrible. It just reminds me of the new Chavez clips. They're just so tight in your pocket. It makes it uncarryable for me personally. I'm not going to deal with trying to yank a knife out of my pocket, having to, like, lift this to get it out of my pocket. I'm just not dealing with that. So that kind of kills this knife for me, along with obviously the size and everything. It's not for me in general, even though I will admit I was tempted to get one after doing the unboxing. It was one of those where I was like, oh, I kind of want one, right? And that's why I'm glad I get to check out a lot of knives on loan, because, you know, I buy it or whatever, and then 2 days later I'd want to sell it because it's really not for me, but it just has a cool factor, right? And I guess we'll get to that a little bit later on. But anyway, that's carry terrible. And it's pretty heavy, but for its size, I'd say it's pretty good weight, honestly. They probably milled out. Oh, they didn't. There's not much milling in there, but it feels pretty lightweight. That must be because it's got these carbon fiber scales, which essentially is milling, right? Because they had to mill out all that titanium to fit the scale in. So it does have weight relief in that sense, and then you have some here as well. So weight is pretty good in terms of the carry. And then obviously the biggest difference is this is now tip up versus the Socom Elite. And that's going to make a lot of people happy, even though the clip sucks. So yeah, tip up is obviously a lot better. I hated the tip down on the Socom Elite. So that's a huge benefit, aesthetically and, just functionally, in my opinion. Cutting. So that's where I was saying this grind obviously starts right here. Pretty thick stock to begin with. You're not going to get a very thin, measurement behind the edge. I can feel how thick it is, honestly. Yet they put a laser beam of an edge on there. So as long as you can maintain that and everything, I mean, it is super slicey. Like, again, if you're cutting just certain materials, which this knife is not really made for, you can see it's super sharp on the edge. But, if you're going to be cutting a lot of cardboard or something like that, I have a feeling this fuller is going to get in the way. And it's super thick, right? So, if you're cutting things like paper and stuff like that, just getting into packages and maybe even the shipping labels I talk about, it did a great job at that. I tested the, I guess the secondary tip down here, you would call it, and then the primary tip up here, and they both work really well for that. Now it's harder to get control, like if you're trying to do, S cuts or something like that with that tip, right? Because just the way you're kind of going straight on, as opposed to this where you have a little more maneuverability. And even with that, with this knife, because it's so big, you can't get those turns really well, where, say, a smaller knife like this fist, I can easily maneuver, right? So it did do well, though, cutting with that tip and that tip in terms of getting the labels out. I didn't have an issue. Yeah. So, like, it's good for EDC stuff. And I'm sure it's great for tactical stuff, right? It's very pokey, stabby. But if you're going to use it for, like, work, I don't know. Unless you need a heavy-duty knife, I don't think this is good for it, just because of how thick that edge is. Now, maybe somebody could thin that out somehow. I don't know. You want to check with somebody else on that, not me. I'm just saying it's thick behind the edge, but it's good at my kind of tasks, if that makes sense. So, cutting's okay, but most knives are in my case. All right, so that takes us to sounds. And they're really good. I mean, it has a good thwack out. And on the close, it's a little muted because of the carbon fiber. But I'd say overall, because of that ka-tunk on the way out, it's pretty good. I'd give it like, I don't know, a 7 out of 10 or something like that on sounds. Action. So this is where this knife is awesome and terrible all at the same time. You can see it's easy for me to flick it out with authority. It flies out of there, right? I can also easily fail it if I want, right? But if you give it the gas, it comes out and it shoots out. One cool thing is, because the D10 is so weak, left-handed, I can put my thumb anywhere on the lock bar and it flicks out. It honestly gives it more detent, because right-handed, you can see how easy it is to fail that reverse flick. But again, if you're trying to do it, it's going to work, right? It's going to come out, no problem. You can also do the slow roll out, no problem. I don't know why, but every time I do this, I just have this mental picture of Stasa doing it. I don't know why. He's a slow roll guy. I can just picture his hand doing it. It's just weird, I know. Anyway, so the D10 is super light, but it kind of works, So I don't want to really make that a detriment, but it kind of is as well, because it's so easy to shake out. You can hear it trying to come out, and I'm barely doing anything. And there you go. Just a little wrist flick, and it basically deploys every time that I do that. I mean, you can see how, like, I'll try to do it here so you can see it. Like, really not doing anything. It just comes right out. part of that super heavy blade, part of that is D10 is just super duper light. Closing action is really good. It comes very stiff, sort of, like not stiff in the sense that there's any kind of like grit in here, but stiff in the sense that like I'll push the lock bar over all the way and it'll just stay like this open. But now after like just 3 days of light fidgeting, it's a dropper, right? Now I will say it's gonna have play. There's almost none right now, so it just breaks in really nice. I had to tighten it earlier today, so you're gonna want to Loctite this guy if you get one. I do like the whole pivot system. I don't know how to explain what I mean, but like the way this blade is cut right here, all rounded, it's just, and the way the lock bar moves over, it's just very smooth. It's very nice compared to the Socom Elite that was really kind of jittery to me. It was really like loosey-goosey, and the liner lock, it just wasn't good. It was a very old design that they, it still is, honestly. They still make it, don't they? It's just an old design they haven't updated in a long time. And this has that kind of update to it. It's really nice. So yeah, the action's really good. So overall, I think it's a cool knife. I kind of want one just to have one. But obviously for, you know, $370, it's not worth just having it as a novelty. So I won't be getting one. I'll be shipping this one off to Australia to Josh and calling it a day. But I do think it's a sweet knife. I think if you're interested in Microtechs, if you're interested in the Socom Elite, you've always wanted one, but you kind of just, you know, you couldn't get one, or you wanted something a little more updated, you wanted that tip-up clip, I think they did it justice. I think they did a great job. The build quality is there. The fit and finish, all that stuff is there. I do wish the detent were just slightly stronger. I get why it's light, thumb studs and everything. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention was I tend to slip over the studs sometimes. Even with the light detent, I'll slip off of them. So I don't know if that's the studs or just like my callous thumbs from so much, you know, thumb flicking. It could be both, honestly. But if you get under it, it has enough grip, has that pyramid kind of thing going on, you can really fire it out. So I don't think it's an issue. But yeah, so that is the Microtech Socom Bravo. And I think we'll call it good on that one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, I love you all. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.